Over the last year, we've had conversations about AI, social media, cybersecurity, websites, data, and innovation. But when we looked at what people actually stopped scrolling for, what they shared, what they replayed, it wasn't hype, it wasn't trends, and it definitely wasn't one magic tool. It was clarity, confidence, and practical skills that make digital feel less overwhelming. That's what this episode is about. Hello and welcome back to the Digital Dominators Podcast. This is a special episode and it's a little different from what we normally do here. Usually each episode is a deep dive with one expert. But as we come to the end of the year, I wanted to pause and do something more reflective and more intentional. So instead of bringing on another guest, this episode is about stepping back and looking at what's already here. At Technology Coaching, we talk a lot about practicing what we preach. And one of the core parts of a digital mindset is using data to make better decisions. So for this episode, we went back through the data from the podcast. We looked at the clips that performed best across our social channels, the ones people watched, they shared, saved, and commented on. And what stood out wasn't just which episodes did well, it was why certain ideas landed. Again and again, the moments that resonated weren't about complexity, they were about reducing overwhelm, building confidence, and focusing on skills, not shortcuts. So this episode is a curated collection of those moments pulled together to show you what the digital mindset looks like in practice. By the end of this episode, you'll have new skills to think about and develop, a list of episodes you can go back and listen to in full, new experts to follow and connect with, and a clearer sense of where you might want to focus next. This isn't a best-of episode, it's a guided walk through the ideas that matter most. If you're new here, hello, I'm Suze Young. I'm the founder of Technology Coaching and I've spent over 15 years working in digital skills, technology training and education. From teaching and working in Japan to training roles at Apple and now working with business owners, teams and organisations across the UK, I've seen the same pattern repeat itself. Technology is moving fast, but people aren't always supported to build confidence alongside it. And that gap between tools and understanding is what I care about closing. Everything we do at Technology Coaching is built around what I call the Digital Mindset Framework. The Digital Mindset Framework isn't about being technical, it's about how you think, decide, and show up in a digital world. I also call this framework the Tekinoji method. That name comes from my time living and working in Japan, where there's a deep respect for craft, for skills, and for continual improvement. Teku for technology, and Noji for path, or a journey of self-discovery. The Tekinoji method is about understanding that skills aren't something you get or achieve just once, they're something you practice, develop, and refine over time. And in our case, continuously evolve. The digital mindset is made up of 6 core skills. These are the skills that constantly come up in my work and in my training and in the conversations that we've had on this podcast. They are innovation, web presence, social media marketing, cybersecurity, AI and automation, and making decisions with data. In this episode, I'm going to walk you through each one, sharing short moments from different conversations that bring these skills to life. Before we dive in, I want to briefly talk about what I mean by a digital dominator. A digital dominator isn't the loudest person online. They're not chasing every new tool or trend. A digital dominator is someone who is intentional, builds confidence in their skills, understands how digital supports their work, not the other way around. They don't try to do everything. They focus on doing the right things well. So let's get into it. Right, let's start with the first skill in the digital mindset and the Tekinoji method, innovation. And I want to say this clearly because innovation is one of those words people hear and immediately think, that's not for me. They picture startups, fancy tech, big budgets, or someone sat coding in a hoodie. But innovation in real life is much simpler than that. Innovation is about solving problems, it's about making something better, and most importantly, it's about being willing to ask questions and experiment without needing everything to be perfect first time. When we looked at what clips people engaged with most across the podcast, the innovation moments that stood out weren't about shiny tools, They were about mindset, curiosity, and designing for humans. So I'm going to share a few short moments from different conversations that show what innovation really looks like in practice. Theme 1 is this: you don't need to know it all. You just need to know how to ask, how to learn, and who to bring in. This came through really strongly in my conversation with Kerry Shaw in the episode How to Turn Your App Idea into Reality. In these next clips, you'll hear us talk about knowledge sharing, asking better questions, and why curiosity will take you further than credentials.
This is why we've connected quite well, Kerry, because of what I find as being really important within the tech space is the knowledge sharing aspect, is where the evolution of technology is too fast that we can't keep up with it, and that the only way for us to keep on top of best practices across industries, doesn't matter what they are, is to share that information and to knowledge share.
You just can't keep on top of everything, no matter, even if you're constantly learning, and that is a big part of my job, is staying on top of what's coming up. But talking to other people, networking, knowing where other people's strengths are so that you can direct them. I love to take a client and say, okay, I'm no longer the right person for you. Have somebody here, or have this connection. Go talk to them.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. Sometimes I get to the point where it's like, okay, you need a full-time CTO. Let me help you find somebody.
Yeah.
Or, okay, this is not my skill set anymore. Let me point you to the right person. Because it's not worth it for me to try and muddle through and give you the wrong information. Let's direct you to an expert.
I think that's where we really need to take that skill on board. And this isn't a technical skill, this is just real essential skill and this is the one thing that we were taught, this is one of the many things we were taught at Apple, and this expression of, I don't know, let's find out. And I think in technology, that is what we always have to say. We have to discover, and that comes through the learning and the exploring with the tools.
Yeah. That's it. I've got a wealth of knowledge in the tech space, but it's much more like every company is unique, every problem is unique. So it's much more about trying to understand your problem so that we can find the right things together. So I don't necessarily have all the answers coming in. In fact, quite often I don't, but I know where to go look, which the founders might not, or I understand what I'm being told, or what the challenges are in this space enough to go find that. Out for them.
I think a lot of people don't realise that they can actually talk to the people that create these tools as well.
Yeah.
So for example, like WordPress, the builders within WordPress, like Elementor for example, I've had multiple conversations with them because I use their tool and I help other people with their tools, so they want to help you create the best and use the best out of their products, and I've learned a lot from them that I can then recommend to other people. So get a CTO, or even at a fractional basis, and have the conversations with the tools that they're providing as well, right?
Yeah. A lot of them have like chat on the website. It might start out automated, but then it'll go to real people as well. Or another good one is many of these tools have like community forums as well.
Yeah.
So you might get other people like, oh, how do I do this with Typeform? How do I do this with WordPress? And people will respond from the community saying, oh, I did it this way. So you get other people like you, and you can learn from them. But also the tools themselves, the people involved will monitor the forums and reply as well to make sure there's no incorrect information going on.
Yeah.
I think that's the people want you to use the tool in the end.
That's right. And it goes back to that kind of knowledge sharing aspect of technology as well, which I love. And I think we need to step into that space as a founder. So even if you're a startup, you step into that role of being the person that can ask these effective questions. So questions you can ask. I get people to use the kind of 5 W's, if you know that, what, when, where, why, how. Right?
Yes, that's a good framework, yes.
So ask the question like 6 or 7 times, the same question 6 or 7 times. So if it is even just a simple question of what is the right tool for me, answer that question. What is the right tool for me? From that again. And ask that same question multiple times, that then may branch off into other questions that will help you kind of define that a little bit more.
Yeah, yes, you really need to be understanding what they're telling you and being able to ask the questions until you do. And if you're not clicking with them, not understanding their explanations, it's not a good fit. You're not going to get what you want. So I really like that, ask what, and then ask why is that, what's the best tool for me? Why is that the best tool for me? Where can I find more information on it? That kind of thing. Do a little bit of the research yourself as well. Take what they're telling you and then go look around, look up the tools, get them to send you links. So yeah, see if it doesn't make sense to you. It should. There's no reason tech has to be incomprehensible to anybody. So yeah, make sure that you understand it makes sense.
This is one of the biggest mindset shifts I see in business owners and in teams. People think being good at tech means having all the answers. But a digital dominator doesn't do that. They don't pretend. They don't sit stuck in silence. They say, I don't know. Let's find out. That is innovation. And even that ask why until it makes sense point is massive, because so many people choose tools like they're picking a jumper in a shop window. It looks good, everyone's using it, so they buy it. Innovation is slower than that. Innovation asks, why are we doing this? What problem are we solving? Who is this for? What does success look like? That's technology energy. Skills first, tools second. Theme 2 is about fear, because a lot of innovation doesn't fail due to capability. It fails because people are scared of getting it wrong, looking silly, or spending money on the wrong thing. Kerry and I talked about this directly, and I want you to hear it because it's so common.
I find it's fear as well, because the amount of people that say, I'm not techie, I don't like tech, but they can't live without their phone in their hand or carrying their computer or tablet with them at all times, and they use it as a means to distraction rather than a means of using it as a tool to help make their life work a bit better and easier. And I think it's changing that mind. There's a lot of mindset around, and this is what I deal with, as you know, so changing the mind around how we implement and use technology. Do you have to do a lot of that as well when you're working with people and individuals, both startups and scale-ups?
Yeah, I think there's an element of that. I think this is where we're maybe not quite in the same space. I tend to get the people who are coming like really excited with an idea, so that they want to do. So I maybe usually get them before they've made.
I get them after. You get them before.
But I'm really aware that there's like loads of people out there that we're not reaching, that are going, that could come to either of us much earlier in the process. Because that's it. Like, I love it when people have got, fantastic ideas. I speak to people every day and I'm like, I never have thought of that, but that sounds fantastic. I'd totally use that. And you must think there's loads of people out there who've got those ideas, but they're just not doing anything with them. It's like, there's people here that can help. It doesn't have to cost you a whole lot of money. There's plenty of, free and very cheap resources that can help you get going. So yeah, I just want a billboard somewhere that says there is help.
We can use existing tools, as you mentioned already.
Yeah.
It's putting those it's like a Lego set, right? So it's putting those Lego pieces together to build something, whatever it is that you want to build. I explain it like a felt board as well. So like, you remember, and that's showing my age, or talking about my age. You remember in
fuzzy felts,
and you can put the felt board and you can paint pictures with it. So it's like that. Like with Lego, if you get a bunch of stuff together, you can create whatever you want, and that's what using the tech stack and the different tools can help you to do. But people don't know about it, right? They don't know.
Yeah, and often the kinds of tools that they're using every day anyway. So lots of people have used like Typeform, for instance, or WordPress, but they just, or Wix, Squarespace, they don't realise that there's a lot more that these existing tools that they're already familiar with can do, that can really help them, put their idea out there and make it real.
I love that Lego and fuzzy felts metaphor because it's exactly what most businesses need to hear. Innovation is not always building from scratch. Sometimes it's combining what you already have in a smarter way. And the fear piece is real. People say, I'm not techie, but then they're using technology constantly. It's not about ability, it's about confidence. This is why I'm so passionate about skills development. Because once you understand that you can learn this and you can ask questions and you can build it one brick at a time, the whole thing becomes less scary. And once fear drops, innovation becomes possible. Theme 3 is the one that matters most as tech moves faster. Innovation has to stay human-centered. We saw this in different ways across the podcast, from the way that we design user experiences to the way that we scale systems, to the way that we make sure the right people are in the room. I'm going to pull together a few short clusters here from a few conversations. first Kath Mora in How to Massively Scale with Tech. This clip is a reminder that user experience has to stay at the centre as tech evolves. Then Katie and Danny Bloomfield from How to Help Ambitious Entrepreneurs Scale Without Sacrificing What Actually Matters. Because innovation isn't just ideas, it's nurturing systems so they actually work. And then back to Kerry, because they bring in inclusion and the future of skills we need as AI grows.
It's great because I love the foundation being the most important part, and this is what I share as well with small businesses and with the large companies as well that we work with, is that the technology constantly is evolving and you can never almost keep on top of it, but really understanding who your customer is, whether that be your in-house customers, that be your staff that are utilising the technology to help improve their work, their way that they're working, to then the businesses that are using the technology to better support their customers. It's really putting the user at the heart of that and what that user journey is and that user experience. And you mentioned there around in corporates, which I know that people listening will understand this as well, that a new tech solution has been brought into the company by the decision makers that aren't on the ground using the technology, and the cost implementations that has on the company as well as the staff. And it isn't really a tool that they might end up using in some sort of way, and it might need to change as soon as it's implemented and rolled out, as well as a huge cost to large corporates. So there's something there about mitigating that by having strong foundations as part.
I'll put it down because I'm not being intentional right now.
Because we talk about the technology being a tool. It's a tool to help you get to achieve. It's not there as a replacement. It's there to be able to help to work with you. You have to treat it like an employee. You have to treat it like something that you need to nurture in the same way to get the best out of it, so it can be set up efficiently to work for you and not distract you from, so you can still live your life and things like that as
absolutely
well.
Yeah.
So that's all part of the whole kind of setup, it sounds like you've got as well with the business. This is where diversity is so important in the technical space, and we've both been in the technical space for a long time now, and we're both based in Scotland, different parts of Scotland, and I have seen the growth of diversity within Scotland itself, but there is a huge need for STEM and getting young people interested in all aspects of STEM, and it not just being around the mathematical side of it or the full technical side of it. There's the creativity side of it as well, right? And the artistic, the design, the fun, the thinking bigger and holistically about it as well. So have you thought about that around that kind of diversity of thought, diversity of everything?
Yes. I mean, this is why I want to bring in more founders from, more diverse backgrounds, and a lot of the work that I'm doing with tech scalers and with some of my other friends and colleagues is around this, like how can we get more people into here who maybe haven't had that exposure. But I do think it's really important that we show the whole aspects of tech, and as you say in STEM, like it's really important that we've got creative folks. Everything is tech nowadays, so we need a whole mix of skills in there. It's far from just the maths, and I think as AI comes more into the mix, particularly there are AI tools that can write your code for you, so it becomes much more important to the communication skills, the understanding, the being able to break a problem down into different steps, being able to analyse the solutions and identify risks. So these skills become a lot more prevalent, I think, as we go into the future. Really lean into curiosity. I think it's a really big skill in the startup space generally, but especially for this kind of thing. There aren't any silly questions on here. Yes, you might be asking very basic questions, but there's no shame in that. And people who are trying to shame you for that, they're the people to ignore. They're not the people you want to be working with. A lot of the tech community is really friendly and supportive, and even if it's not them creating the tool, but they love the tool, they want to help you use it. So it's surprisingly friendly space, many of these areas, and I think it's worth leaning into that, because then you can do a lot more yourself. You can get a lot further on your own, or maybe with your founding team, if you've got a few of you doing it together, you can get a lot further without having to bring in outside help. so you can get there more cheaply.
So let's talk a little bit about inclusive innovation as well. So you talk quite a bit about that, and what does that really look like when we're building tech products? How do we build in that inclusive aspect of it? Not just accessibility, but inclusion.
Yes. So a lot of it is about having like a slightly wider view then, and making sure that you've got, it's not just you in your head solving the problem, and that you've got a few people giving you different ideas. So this is where, as a startup team, some people call it like your board of advisors, but it's really just a collection of friends or contacts in the industry who can help you out. So you might have people who maybe represent your customers really well, and you might have people who represent like a few different types of customers or different backgrounds of your customers. And you can have people who can help you on the tech side and on the industry side and all that kind of thing. So getting those different views in, and not just talking to them about their own area of expertise, but just sharing a little bit more about your journey with them, then you can start getting that wider view on what you're trying to do. Can allow you to identify challenges or problematic aspects or risky aspects up front and deal with them. I think also when you're working with your development team, to ask questions about, if you're using a third-party provider, what's the makeup of their team like? Are the women involved? Are the people from different backgrounds? Because then they can feed into the tech side and the challenges as well.
This is where innovation gets really interesting. Because as AI gets better, as the tools get more powerful, it's tempting to think innovation is a technical game, but it's not. If anything, the human skills become more important. Communication, breaking problems down, understanding risk, designing for real people, and inclusion is a huge part of this. Innovation isn't just accessibility as a bolt-on at the end, it's asking from the start, who might this exclude and why? Innovation is not look what we built, it's who does this help and how does it change their experience? So if innovation is the skill where you tend to get stuck, here's what I want you to take from this. You don't need a perfect idea, you don't need to know it all, you need curiosity, good questions, and a human-centered lens. And if you're listening to this thinking, I don't actually know how strong I am in this skill, that's exactly what the Digital Mindset Quiz will show you. It's the quickest way to understand where you're confident and where you've got an opportunity to grow. Right, let's move on to the next skill. The next digital mindset skill is web presence. And this is one of the most misunderstood ones. When people hear web presence, they usually think website or Instagram, or maybe SEO if they're feeling fancy. But your web presence is much bigger than that. It's how easy it is to find you, how easy it is to understand you, and how confident people feel once they land in your world. Your web presence is what's doing the talking about you when you're not in the room. And when we looked at the data from the podcast reels, the moments that stood out weren't about clever design tricks. They were actually about clarity, trust, and what happens after someone says yes. So again, I want to pull together a few moments from different conversations that show what web presence really looks like in practice. The first theme is being findable, not just by people, but interestingly, by AI tools too. This came up really clearly in my conversation with Jules White in the episode Website Visibility Turning Searches into Sales. And it also connects to wider conversations we've had about how your website content is now training search engines and AI tools to understand who you are and what you do.
So SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. And essentially what it means is that the information on your website is set up in a way that it shows up in search engines like Google and Bing. But it's just making sure that when you're looking at your website, you're working out what you want to show up for. So that's quite often where people sort of don't realize that, actually just taking it back a step and thinking, what should I be showing up for on Google? If my customers are typing something into Google, what are the things that I should be showing up for? Working out which page of your website is the most appropriate for that search term, and then just optimizing that page. And by optimizing, we mean just essentially using those words that people are typing into Google in strategic places on the page. That then helps, as the search engines actually crawl through your website, it helps you then to be that page that they recommend.
My website right now is not 100% accessible. But what I am doing...
either, but yeah, I will be going and checking to see.
But what I am doing, because I've got like 60 pages on that site with another like 50, 60 blog posts. That's a massive undertaking. What I do know is that every new page I build is more accessible than the last one I've built, because I'm always learning, obviously. But what I am doing is like, right, okay, so which are the most visited pages? Okay, these are the ones that I need to prioritize. Let's audit them. Where are the weaknesses? Okay, now that I found the weaknesses, I'm going to fix them, and then kind of do it in stages that way. So yeah, I'm not sitting here going, yes, I'm perfect, my website is perfect, it's the most accessible website you've ever seen, because it's not.
I think people forget that when they're running a business, they don't treat data like a team member, right? So I like to think of your technology as a team member, as like an employee. You've got to nurture it. You've got to invest in it. You've got to spend time on it. You've got to treat it with kind and careness and empathy, and ask it questions like you would another employee that's working with you, because it's running your business, or it should be running your business for you. So do you feel that kind of way around data in some sort of way, that we need to be investing in it in the same way? We need to give it some sort of power in that sense, if that's the right phrasing to use.
Absolutely. If you had a team member who was able to tell you all that information, like stop wasting your time on Instagram, spend more time here, make sure you're fixing this sales page, look at all these people who are arriving on your website to this useless blog post that's doing nothing for you. Like, why aren't people moving from your homepage somewhere else? If you had somebody that could give you all those insights and really, I mean, you can hire people that will do that for you. But, you know, being able to like empowered and understand at least how Google Analytics works and what the data is saying to you is so powerful. I think it is. It's like a team member. And you're right, like all technology, all the subscriptions we have, we complain about the money it costs. How much would it cost to hire someone to do that for you?
This is the bit people often miss. Your website isn't just a brochure, it's a signal. It's telling search engines, AI tools, and real humans, this is who I help. This is how I help them, and this is what I stand for. And accessibility matters here too, because if people can't use your site properly, whether that's because of design, language, or structure, then your web presence is quietly pushing people away. Digital Dominators don't think about websites as one-off projects. They think of them as a living asset that needs clarity, care, and attention. The second theme under web presence is one that hardly anyone talks about. What happens after someone buys? Because your web presence doesn't stop at checkout. In fact, that's where trust is either enforced or lost. This came through really strongly in my conversation with Penny Hopkinson in the episode The Secret Weapon to Building Bulletproof Business Manuals Fast.
Solopreneurs, if you've got a system, you need to protect it. It's your intellectual property. And the one way you can do it is by documenting it or capturing it. So you have so much knowledge in your head. That's what makes you special. And that knowledge should be captured and there to keep up to date, and Manual Magic AI will enable you to put everything you know into 5 to 6 categories. It will help generate those SOPs to a pretty fine degree of detail, and it doesn't really matter what industry, what sector you're in. It will help. It will do a gap analysis. It will tell you what's missing and then help you plug that gap.
It is a mindset around it all.
As you so rightly mentioned right at the beginning, it's an AI mindset that we need, because that's going to help us work more efficiently. I mean, if you contrast how we used to create operations manuals, and that they were all word processed. I suppose they were typed in the beginning on an electric typewriter. Unfortunately, 1982, there would have been a small percentage who were using computers. The legal profession was quick to adopt word processing. As an example, creating an operations manual, 5 volumes for Costa Coffee. It came in a super box, which unfortunately arrived with me like firewood. But the cost of creating this amazing presentation, and now you've got it all online, you can update it instantly, and everything is current. Nobody has to search for a previous or search for information that's out of date, because it's all current.
This is where web presence and operations collide. If someone buys from you and then everything goes quiet, or it feels messy, or it feels improvised, that becomes part of your brand. Strong web presence is about continuity. It's about people feeling looked after even when they're not manually involved. And this is such a digital mindset point, because documentation, onboarding, and clear processes aren't boring, they're freeing. They give you capacity. They give your clients confidence. The third theme is about relationships. Web presence isn't just about attracting people, it's about keeping them. This came up beautifully in my conversation with Lindsay McGlone and how to actually make Instagram work for you and your audience. Even though that episode sits under social media, what Lindsay talks about here is really about presence and connection.
So I see this a lot. In business in general. So this is not social media specific. This is client specific. So you've made your sale, you've exchanged, you've got your Kartra notification, your standstill notification, you're dead happy about it. You've done a little dance, and then 3 minutes later you forgot their name. That is the problem, okay? I remember what it was like when I invested in something and I was terrified. I remember what that felt like for me, okay? And because when we're thinking about people investing in us, we obviously want people who are excited to invest in us, but there's also a fear that comes with that. So when I invested in one-to-many, was I excited? Yeah. Were I terrified? Absolutely. I was so scared, okay? And I remember what that feeling was like. And I would have hated to not have the support that I got. So when I think about the people that work with me, I try and remember every single person's name. So absolutely, if you're not sharing why you care and what is, your backstory, people can't invest in you in the same level. And I don't just mean financially. I mean, when somebody invests in you, but they know and care about you as a person, they invest their time so much more readily as well. So they're going to be more open to learning from you. And then you're going to create raving fans, because you're going to get good results. So it isn't just about financial investment. It's how much do they actually want to learn from you. And if you're not sharing your values and your story, then you're not letting people in.
This is where web presence becomes human. People don't just want information, they want reassurance. They want to feel like they're in the right place. And when your presence, your website, your content, your systems all line up, that trust builds quietly over time. Digital Dominators don't just think about reach, they think about relationships. They ask, does this make sense? Does this feel supportive? Does this reflect who we actually are? So if your web presence feels a bit fuzzy for you, if you're not sure whether your website content and your systems are working together, that's completely normal. And again, that's exactly what the Digital Mindset Quiz is designed to help with. It shows you where you're strong and where tightening things up would make the biggest difference. Right, let's move on to the next skill. The next digital mindset skill is social media marketing. And this is one that causes the most frustration, because social media is loud, it's opinionated, and it often makes people feel like they're behind, doing it wrong, or missing some secret trick. But here's the truth. Social media marketing isn't about going viral. It's not about copying what someone else is doing. And it's definitely not about performing a version of your life that doesn't feel like you. When we looked at the podcast clips that resonated most around social media, they all had one thing in common. They were about clarity, honesty, and intention. So again, I want to share a few moments from different conversations that show what social media marketing actually looks like when it's working. The first theme is about letting go of performance, because one of the biggest reasons people struggle with social media is that they think they have to show up as someone they're not. This came through really strongly in my conversations with Lindsay McGlone and Danielle Thompson. Both talk honestly about confidence, conviction, and the damage that success porn can do.
Absolutely. We're spending so much time being too filtered in a different version of ourselves and trying to curate rather than create. We're curating an ideal life. We're putting ourselves in situations. We're waiting until we're on a red carpet, or we're waiting until we're at that business networking event where we get the free glass of champagne. We don't have to wait, okay? A lot of people exist in extremely successful businesses that have no wallpaper on one wall, or the floor's being taken up, or they haven't had the garden mowed in a week, or they've got to take the bin out. It doesn't take away or detract away from how successful you are, the tangible results that you get for your clients, the results that you create for you. It does not matter. And people are connecting to people. And if we're constantly curating, not creating content, where we're putting ourselves into these unattainable situations, how do we expect our audience to align with us? Because we're so far from their reality.
It could be that you were taking phone calls with people you've never spoken to, but they're the kind of people you want to be connected with. Yeah. If you can connect with that vision and that idea of the future, you've got a North Star that can guide you. And having that North Star, it makes every decision along the way so much easier, because you can kind of go, well, is that leading me to where I want to be? And if you pair that with your niggles and your jealousies, you know, well, I know I may need to get there, but I don't want to do this thing while I'm doing that. Let's discard that. It kind of gives you this, like a yellow brick road, I suppose, for want of a better word, that you can just keep following, going, that is a shiny object, I don't need that right now. Or that makes me feel uncomfortable, you go away, I don't like you. And it's hard, but once you've got it, I don't know, it makes everything aligned. It makes decisions easier. I find it makes everything so much more comfortable.
If you had your personal life was separate, you didn't need to post about you weren't in the business. But now, post-COVID, we're in the person is the business world. And so if you're starting out, this is great. You can set that up with that in mind, and you are your business and people can follow you and your business comes as part of it. You can change your, if we're talking about meta profiles, to reflect that in that sort of way. But there's people in this listening community that are established business owners and that are now having to show up as the person in their business, and they struggle with going, geez, I've got to post on my business profiles. I've got all that to manage as well as this personal, and I don't need to share all about my life, but I've got so much work I need to do when it comes to posting and creating a content strategy based around those multiple channels in that way. This is such an important mindset shift. Social media isn't a stage, it's a conversation. And the moment you stop trying to impress people and start trying to connect with them, everything changes. Digital Dominators don't chase perfection. They show up as themselves consistently with conviction. And that's why confidence matters more than algorithms ever will. The second theme is about intention, because not all content is meant to sell. And not all content is meant to educate. One of the clearest explanations of this came from Abigail Mills in the episode 5 Instagram Mistakes Costing Your Business and How to Fix Them.
Okay, so getting testimonials from your customers if you're a service-based business. But what are some ways that you as a business owner can then put out content? What type of content can you put out? Is it reels? Is it carousel? Like what is the way that, let's say I'm going to do this for technology coaching? What would you advise?
So a lot of it derives from what your bigger business goal is. And it's the first thing I always kind of sit down and speak to the business owners about. Approach when I'm working with people is I take 4 weeks to onboard people. Some people think that's excessive. I personally don't, because I need to get into the head of the business owner. I need to know what's actually the goal outside of business. Like, is there like a life goal that they're trying to achieve? How is the business supporting them doing that? What services are they putting on offer? Have they got new things launching? Like, there's a whole element that goes into social media and actually marketing in general that people maybe don't think about under the surface. So I need to get to know this side. So once we kind of learn where they're going, what the direction is they're taking, I then start to look at, okay, are we in the kind of audience growth phase? Like, maybe you're starting from zero. So we know that we need to be doing some more reels because that's going to increase our reach. We need to be doing some more outreach and engaging, because again, that's going to get our name out there. We need to be looking at what the big wigs are doing in the field. How can we replicate and use some of their network to actually benefit us? For example, commenting on their posts and getting into their circles, etc. So there's that kind of bottom layer. Then it's addressing, okay, you've got the followers in, how do we kind of keep them nurtured and entertained and not just feeding them with the basic knowledge that's just getting people in through the door. So that's where I would say the carousels start to come into play. You can be really educational and get really into the nitty-gritty of things through carousels that are just a bit more easier to digest than sitting watching maybe a 30-45 second video. So that's your sort of nurture layer in there. I would say in that line as well, stories kind of falls into that kind of nurture phase of getting the kind of behind the scenes stuff and what it's like to be in the business and how you're running the day-to-day of things as well. So that feeds in there quite well. And then you've obviously got your top layer, which is your selling. People are ready to buy from you, they've trusted you, they've engaged with your content now for quite a while. And I'd say the number one place, and it is one of my 5 mistakes, is selling on stories. That is where the money is on Instagram.
If you're doing perfect content, you're going to get scrolled past. Unfortunately, I love Canva. I use Canva all the time. But if it's too perfect, people don't believe it because perfect isn't real and certainly not attainable to anybody. So they want to see the real you. They want to see that they can believe what you're saying and build that trust. So if you are really struggling to be authentic online, and I'll put my hands up and say I've been there. I've hidden behind brands until about 18 months ago where I had to be myself. Even my cafe and bar was named after my grandmother. So I had already created another persona that wasn't me, that I could hide behind. But it was that story I told all the time about the reason why I started the cafe and bar. That was really, really powerful. But it is about just starting small and building confidence. We're not expecting you to do a live on Instagram and start sharing everything that's going on in your world and being really emotionally vulnerable. Small steps so people can see who you are.
This is where so many people go wrong. They post without a purpose, then feel disheartened when nothing happens. Digital Dominators understand that content works as a system. Some content attracts, some content builds trust, some content converts. And when you stop expecting every post to do everything, social media becomes a lot less exhausting. And the third theme is about visibility without pressure. Because being visible online shouldn't feel like you're constantly on show. This came up across several conversations, including Kay Sudar and Nikki Hutchinson, where we talked about influence marketing myths and what businesses actually get wrong.
It doesn't take much or take long to be able to step into your confidence, but you've got to be able to take that action first, and it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be messy. And one of the other things he said to me was, but what if no one watches? What if no one comments or responds? I'm like, you're not going to know unless you do it. He did it, and he had so many responses. He had so many comments. He was like blown away. And now he continues to do that, right? So that's one thing to build your confidence. The second thing I always say to people, and the second thing is actually a 3-step process, right? So record yourself, right? Record yourself on camera. And it could literally just be you talking about something, not very long, 30 seconds, 1 minute, whatever. Or it could just be you reading a book, right? Just read the book and just be yourself and just talk in front of the camera. And then what you do, once you've recorded it, you watch and listen to yourself from the beginning to end. Just analyze your body movement, what you're saying, your tone, all of that kind of stuff.
Because actually often, especially those of us that come up through a corporate ladder essentially, and that's where we start our careers, we're taught not to bring that to the flow. Don't be yourself. You have to fill this very professional image and fit this mold, and it's hard to break out of that. And I think a lot of business owners find themselves, even though they've escaped the corporate world, still find themselves kind of caught in that trap. So my work has evolved naturally, I think, over the years to really harness that concept, that sort of thing that we did in word of mouth, of sort of finding a humour way to talk about things, a real way to talk about things, and streamlining and channeling that into individual business owners' sort of strategy, but an identity. It's all about kind of embracing that sense of your own identity that enables you to safely and confidently, with conviction, go and take that out to your content and to your marketing.
This is where social media marketing really clicks. Visibility isn't about being everywhere, it's about being recognisable. It's about people seeing you enough times to trust you, to understand you, and to feel confident buying from you when the time is right. That's why voice matters so much, because the more you sound like you, the easier it is for the right people to find you. If social media feels draining or confusing or inconsistent, that's not a personal failing. It usually means that the strategy isn't clear yet. And again, the Digital Mindset Quiz will show you where your skills need strengthening and where they could be a bit more tightening up, and that would make a difference. So, right, let's move on to the next skill. Next up is AI and automation, and this is the skill that most people are most curious about and most overwhelmed by. AI feels fast, it feels noisy, and if I'm honest, it often feels like people are being told they need to do everything immediately or risk being left behind. But inside the digital mindset and the Technology method, AI and automation isn't about chasing tools. It's about reducing friction. It's about supporting better thinking. And it's about making work feel lighter, not heavier. When we looked at the data from the podcast reels, the AI clips that resonated most weren't the flashy ones. They were the ones that helped people feel calmer, clearer, and more confident. So let's dig into that. The first theme is one I wish more people talked about. You do not need to AIify everything in your business. This came up really clearly in conversations with Kath Mora and Kerry Kidd, both of whom work with businesses drowning in tools, systems, and half-finished automations.
AI is the hot topic everywhere, but overall AI relies on data. So if you understand, if you keep that in mind, then it doesn't matter if another company has way more money to implement like a super power thing with AI, but if they don't have the right data, then the system won't be as good as maybe that you have clarity. What is the high value use case that I want to solve? What's the data that I need? What questions people are going to ask to this AI system, and what's the expected result? That can sort of lower down the barriers. So think about data everywhere. You're always generating data. We are the creators of data in many platforms that we're using for free. That is not for free. Are they like social media tools, LinkedIn? They're understanding how we react. We're understanding what's our day-to-day life. So it's very important to keep that in mind, that we are the ones creating data, and then also be careful like who you're giving your data to, because sometimes it's like, yes, like I know they're using my data, but I'm also getting value. For example, LinkedIn, working on my brand, but getting new customers, working on my network. But there are other places that they might trick you and get your data, and then we're just very excited to go and run an experiment and be curious, but it might not be the right thing.
So why do you think so many small business owners end up with scattered systems and digital overwhelm?
I think it's because no one really teaches you how to build a business digitally. You sort of patch it together as you go. One day you need a way to book clients, so you go and grab a calendar tool. Next you're sending newsletters, so you grab a mailing platform. Before you know it, you've got 10 different tools. None of them are talking to each other, and you're that glue holding it all together. It all adds to that pressure of it, do it all, social media, automation, websites, CRMs, and it's no wonder people feel overwhelmed.
This is such a common trap. People think automation means sophistication, but in reality, it often just means complexity. Digital Dominators don't add tools to look clever. They remove friction. They ask, what's taking too long? What keeps breaking? What am I repeating manually every week? And then they automate that, not everything. AI should give you back time and headspace. If it's doing the opposite, something's wrong. The second theme is one that separates responsible AI use from reckless AI use. Policy before tools. This came up clearly in conversations with Caroline Laurison and Amanda Webb, particularly around data, privacy, and working inside secure environments.
Tech can do so much, but I do sometimes feel like there's a bit of a bandwagon with AI at the moment where like everything is like, well, let's AIify it. And it's like, but why? Sometimes the simple solutions work far better and are more impactful.
Yeah, I agree. I believe that keep it super simple method is always the best way, because we overbuild, we over technify it, I think. I was talking to somebody yesterday about that all afternoon, simplifying the process, and she's a CTO in the same way as well, so it's exactly the same. So how does that work with the AI tools that are now scraping websites and scraping the web? Are they able to find the right pages due to the right information that's been shared on the website? Does that have an impact with Google Analytics?
So I don't want to claim I'm an expert here, but it should. So one of the things you can do is you can go into your AI tool of preference. So I use ChatGPT and Gemini for this. I use Claude as well, but I use that for different purposes. So I will ask it, like, who are the top Google Analytics experts in Ireland and the UK? And it will pull out a list of people that it thinks. And the first time I did this, I haven't done it recently because I was shamed. I was shamed by this. It didn't include me. And I was like,
shocking,
what?
Amanda, shocking.
So I was like, well, why haven't you included me? And they went, right, here's your website. This is all the things that you need to do to make sure that you do come up in our results.
Number one is to really think about why you might be resisting technology, being honest with yourself and looking at, okay, what's at stake if I don't overcome this fear? Because as we've said earlier, technology is evolving very fast, very quickly. You don't want to be any further behind than you may be already with your upskilling. Try and get to the root cause of what it is, and then look at, okay, what do I need to do to overcome that? So I would say that's tip number one. I think tip number two then is around collaboration. And again, what I try to do with my clients and also on my teaching with workshops is, how can you find people to collaborate with, to play with technology? Okay, so you don't have to do it all on your own. Once you've overcome your resistance, where can you make this a group exercise? Where can you collaborate perhaps with other colleagues to say, hey, how can we use this technology to move forward? And then I think number three, which also touches on a bit what we mentioned earlier around knowledge and how do you consume knowledge and how do you stay up to date? I think tip number three is making that commitment to yourself. Say, you know what? Same way I might go to the gym, or I might go for a walk, or I might listen to a podcast, I'm going to put aside the time to learn this. And start off with free tools like we mentioned earlier. Obviously, pay for some paid subscriptions, but making that commitment to keep playing and keep learning is probably tip number one.
This is where AI becomes a strategic skill. Before you ask, what tool should I use? You should be asking, what data is going into this? Where is it stored? Who can see it? What happens if something goes wrong? Digital Dominators don't just use AI, they set boundaries for it. And that's especially important in teams, regulated environments, or anywhere a customer data is involved. This isn't about fear, it's about responsibility. The third theme is one I feel very strongly about. AI should never replace your voice. This came beautifully in my conversation with Lucy McCara. And it also connects to work by Kat Patterson around AI-assisted coaching.
And what I really have to say is that it's not there for AI to write your book. The writing, I mean, AI can go everywhere online. It can find all sorts of stuff, but the one place it cannot get to is inside your head. So it's absolutely essential that you write. The actual writing is yours and your voice. And it doesn't matter if you're a good writer or a bad writer, or, you know, your voice and your knowledge and your expertise is key. So I need to say that. But all the kind of surrounding stuff, the structuring, the planning, the positioning, and also helping you get through the writing. So, you know, you can plan your own schedule and it will give you nudges. It will, you know, tell you when you plan to write and all that sort of thing.
I describe AI as it's the best apprentice and researcher you could ever have. I think the problem has been, problem's not too strong a word, but the issue or, you know, the thought process so far has been, this is a brand new tool, it must know everything, and people treat it like Like, it's already the researcher that's came straight out and has all the data. And I think that's the confusing bit for people, but actually know when it works really well for it because you've trained it. So it's like getting the new employee in and doing the whole induction process, which takes time, a bit of effort, but by goodness, it's worth that input and investment of time into this tool or person ever. And what you get back is phenomenal. But you have to put in the effort. It's not just that, oh, I've opened up, there's a chat box. Take the time and the effort to train it, to teach it, to let it become its most amazing apprentice and research assistant, and then use it for what you need it to use it for, rather than assuming it's came brand new out the box, ready to go.
This is what enabled the human race to evolve, is this ability to communicate and connect on a verbal, non-verbal level that we are handing over and just surrendering and giving up. I mean, there are so many business reasons, which I'm sure we don't need to list here, that your audience will be aware of why that's a really bad idea. But it's the human level of it as well that gets me. I'm like, no, come on, guys. This is the best bit of being a person. It's the best bit of being human, is that we have this ability to connect with each other and communicate with each other. And why are we outsourcing that to machine when that's the core of who we are and what we are?
This is where AI gets really exciting and really dangerous, because it's easy to let tools speak for you, but the value is still in your experience, your insights, and your judgment. AI can help you organize thoughts, it can help you draft, it can help you reflect, but it shouldn't erase you from the work. Digital Dominators use AI as a thinking partner, not a replacement. If AI and automation feels overwhelming, here's the key takeaway. You don't need more tools, you need better decisions. And if you're not sure how strong this skill is for you right now, or whether you're overcomplicating things, the Digital Mindset Quiz will show you exactly where you stand. Okay, one last skill to go. And finally, we come to the 6th digital mindset skill, making decisions with data. And I want to say this straight away, this is not about spreadsheets, dashboards, or being good with numbers. This skill is about thinking clearly. It's about using information, not gut feeling alone, not guesswork, not panic, to make better decisions over time. In many ways, this entire episode has been an example of this skill in action. We didn't pick clips based upon what I liked. We looked at what people watched, shared, and engaged with. That's data. And when you start to use data in a way as feedback, not judgment, everything changes. The first theme is about how you relate to data, because data isn't something you check once a month and then ignore. It's a team member. This came up clearly in conversations with Amanda Webb and Kerry Kidd, where we talked about analytics, systems, and what happens when people avoid looking at the numbers.
I think people forget that when they're running a business, they don't treat data like a team member, right? So I like to think of your technology as a team member. It's like an employee. You've got to nurture it. You've got to invest in it. You've got to spend time on it. You've got to treat it with kind and careness and empathy and ask it questions like you would another employee that's working with you, because it's running your business, or it should be running your business for you. So do you feel that kind of way around data in some sort of way, that we need to be investing in it in the same way? We need to give it some sort of power in that sense, if that's the right phrasing to use.
Absolutely. If you had a team member who was able to tell you all that information, like stop wasting your time on Instagram, spend more time here, make sure you're fixing this sales page, look at all these people who are arriving on your website to this useless blog post that's doing nothing for you, like why aren't people moving from your homepage somewhere else? If you had somebody that could give you all those insights and really, I mean, you can hire people that will do that for you, but you know, being able to like empowered and understand at least how Google Analytics works and what the data is saying to you is so powerful. I think it is. It's like a team member. And you're right, like all technology, all the subscriptions we have, we complain about the money it costs. How much would it cost to hire someone to do that for you?
They could also, again, dig down the rabbit hole of Google and YouTube and things, which obviously takes hours, especially if you're not quite sure what you're looking for. But again, a lot of these big providers of their email systems and the tools they're using probably have some form of training as well. It's just a lot of the time business owners don't know this, or they don't have the time to go and find that information.
Yeah, I find going straight to the support pages, even the help menu to start off with, and with all the AI integration into these tools. So for example, in Microsoft, they've got Copilot, in Gmail and Google products workspace, they've got Gemini, and even just other AI tools. You can just go and ask the question like you would in Google previously, how do I do this task? Give it more context around what action it is that you want to take, and ask the AI tool to ask you those questions back so that you can clarify that. And then really it helps to break down that step-by-step actions for you. And it means that we can use the built-in tools, but that doesn't take away from actually having an expert looking at what your full tech stack looks like and how to make it all work together in that way. Because yes, you can go and get the advice straight from the tools, which is what I would always start with and recommend, because they're the tool provider. They want it to work specifically for you. But it's how it works with everything else, right?
Don't ignore your SEO. Look for those low-hanging fruits and just actually take some time to do it, because the work that you do now as well in your SEO pays dividends in 3, 6, 9, 12 months time and beyond. Whereas when you are using social media, as soon as you stop posting, the traffic stops. If you're paying for ads, as soon as you stop paying for ads, the traffic stops. SEO can keep delivering for you, and it's not going away. With AI searches and AI overviews, all of this stuff in the back end is going to become even more important, so it's even more relevant than ever, really. So don't ignore it.
This is where people get stuck. They think data is there to tell them they are failing. But Digital Dominators use data differently. They ask, what's working? What's getting ignored? What keeps taking more effort than it should? And then they use that information to adjust. Data doesn't replace intuition, it supports it. It gives you evidence so you're not making every decision from emotion or exhaustion. The second theme is one of my favourites. You don't need more data, you need better questions. This came up repeatedly across the podcast, especially in conversations around tools, automation, and innovation.
I find this as well, that they'll get told a solution by somebody else, and that person's not in their industry, not in their niche, and they're not an expert, but they will trust them and they go with that, and then it doesn't work out for them as well. So that's some problems I see as well around people that have had that. So we've both come at we've got people coming to us from different places in that way, and how they're getting the advice from us.
Basically, data is the foundation of AI, but now we're just being so like, AI is magic, this magic thing that will do everything for you. But if you're a business trying to implement some sort of AI in your processes, or to offer it to your customers, or build an AI first product, then what you're going to see is that the data is a fundamental piece. And so it's important to, as we discussed before, understand your data. So what is it that you have? Because data is an asset. So what are your data assets? Where are you storing your data? Where are the different places? What's the type of data? How often the data changes? And then even with the AI, can I feed this data to AI? Or again, maybe because of regulatory elements or data privacy, you cannot put this data here. So that's also very important for you to keep in mind. Also, the other part is to understand that just because you have data doesn't mean that you can just dump it on an AI system. It's also understanding what's the processing of that data. So it can be that, because I say garbage in, garbage out. So it could be that you have important data, but you need to tweak it a little bit more, give more context to the AI system. So this data is about this and this and that, and you should use it on this and this place.
This is such a digital mindset moment. People think being data-driven means staring at dashboards. But really, it means pausing long enough to ask, why are we doing this? What problem are we solving? What would look better, or what would better actually look like? When you slow down just enough to ask the right questions, the answers become much clearer. And then suddenly, you don't need to analyze everything. You just need to analyse the right thing. The third theme is about focus, because one of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to track everything. This came up across conversations with Katie and Danny Bloomfield, Naomi Rose and Rebecca Leopard, in different ways, but with the same message. Clarity of goals changes everything.
I yoga every single day as a habit. Even on the days I can't really be bothered to do it, I will do it because I know that I'm nearly 42, and when I wake up at 50, I want to be, can I swear on this one? I was going to say, I'm going to be flexible as fuck. Right? I know that I want to be flexible at 50.
Flexible in body, flexible in mind.
There we are, right?
Yeah.
I want that. I want that peace, that movement to still go through my body. I know how I want to feel when I turn 50. So I'm going to yoga every single day for the next, well, I've done it every single day for the past 2 years, almost. You know, there might have been a couple of days off, but, you know, that when you go back to purpose, well, why? Because I want to be flexible at 50. So even on the days I can't really be bothered, okay, but I know I want to feel like that. So they're the habits that I want to embed. And actually now, if I don't yoga, I feel awful. So
life is too short to work with people that you don't like. And this is valid for employer and employee. So if you are now in a crossroad of hiring or being hired, think about it. You can find the money from anywhere, I promise you. But your mental health, your creativity will only flourish if you work with the right person alongside you. I promise you. We have done so many failures of mishire, bad hire, and it's not worth it. Don't force it. It's gonna be your day-to-day. It's gonna be your bread and butter, live and breathe, everything. So yes, really choose the people that you work with.
This is where data becomes empowering instead of overwhelming. When you know what you're aiming for, data becomes a guide. It helps you say yes to this, no to that, not now to everything else. Digital Dominators don't track metrics for the sake of it. They track what helps move them forward. And this is why I love this skill so much. Because when you combine innovation, web presence, social media marketing, cybersecurity, AI and automation, and then you layer decision-making with data on top, everything becomes calmer, more intentional, more confident. You start choosing and you stop reacting. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this episode, it's this. You don't need to master everything at once. You need to understand where you are right now. And that's exactly what the Digital Mindset Quiz is designed to do. It shows you your strengths across all 6 skills and highlights where a small shift could make a big difference. You'll find the link in the show notes or go to technologycoachingonline.com/quiz. Thank you for listening to this episode and welcome to the world of Digital Dominators.